They send the lowliest, the most pathetic of all.
To say I'm disappointed in Darksiders 3 is to both severely undersell exactly how much I love this series and undersell exactly how much I would rather have had no game at all than this. Now, I truly do adore the Darksiders series. Darksiders and Darksiders 2 both were fantastic. And I loved how much Darksiders 2 expanded upon the original, adding in loot and a larger world. And this, Darksiders 3, is so regressive. The loot drops are gone, the openness of the world is gone, and all of the Zelda inspirations are gone. Now, Darksiders was quite famous for being bold-faced about its inspirations. It was very clearly wearing its love for Zelda on its sleeve. This game has gone from what could generously be called an homage to what could very truthfully be called a total frigging rip-off. And not of Zelda. That would have been nice, at least. No, this is just another Dark Souls clone. This is just, I shouldn't say clone. It's closer, actually, to Lords of the Fallen, which itself is a Dark Souls ripoff. But when it comes to quality, both in terms of graphics and performance, this game is so comparable to Lords of the Fallen that it looks more like a ripoff of a ripoff. Now, just to let you know exactly how utterly dreadful and grotesque this game is when it comes to copying Dark Souls, the main character of Fury here has been charged with either perpetuating the cycle or stomping out the flames. Yes. This game trades souls for level ups, and it just calls them souls. I did forget, actually, that they've always been called souls in the Darksiders series. I put this video up originally. It's not fair to leave that in, even though the game rips off so much from Dark Souls, and it does actually use souls in the same way that Dark Souls uses souls, so they've changed that, but it has always been called souls. But, you know, you drop them where you die, and you have to use Volgrim to bank them, otherwise you could risk losing them. You know how that works by now, you've seen it in many games. Anyway, I know a lot of people say I'm unfair to games deliberately when I don't think I am, but that was a bit unfair because I forgot. And, you know me, I'm a re-uploading little pedant when I feel like I've got something wrong, so for those wondering why this video was up originally and then it was down, it's because I forgot that they've always been called Souls. I don't know, maybe they thought because it was always called Souls they're entitled to make the game even more like Dark Souls, even though, yes, I know it doesn't have a stamina meter in it, that's one thing they didn't crib, but that one thing doesn't make this game any less shameless. And I kid you not, this game even has a Lord of Hollows as a character that performs hollowing. Yes! And on top of all that, it's yet another Dark Souls game that doesn't... Sorry, Dark Souls game. Yet another Dark Souls ripoff that doesn't understand why Dark Souls is good. This game just saw Dark Souls, thought, oh, it's hard, therefore people like it, and decided to make this one cheap shots the game. You have a dodge mechanic to avoid damage. If there are any invincibility frames in that dodge, I don't know where they are. If they are there, they are a sliver. The enemies are so fucking good at delivering cheap shots. They are designed to attack multiple times and know where your dodges are, so that sometimes dodging gets you hit more. They attack from off-camera constantly, and you get this very faint indicator that there is an enemy off-screen, but it is so faint and the rest of the screen so busy, you can see the little tiny faint arrow there, that you really can't tell when an attack is coming. And attack animations are such that it is not uncommon for you to hit the enemy and the enemy to hit you at the exact same time multiple times. One-on-one with an enemy isn't so bad, but the game loves to surround you with them, have them ambush you, and again, just have them constantly claw at you from off the screen. And maybe if they'd have taken a little more inspiration from Spider-Man or the Batman Arkham games, have some really useful dodge mechanics and really well-telegraphed enemy attacks, it wouldn't be so bad. But the game decided to dispense with all of that. Doesn't matter, just make it like Dark Souls and don't bother trying to understand why Dark Souls is a good, tough but fair game. With the loot drop system taken out and replaced with fucking nothing, There's not a lot to look forward to in this game. Now, you can trade your souls for attribute points and put them into one of 3 attributes: strength, arcane damage, or health. Yippee. And as you progress through the story, you can unlock different forms for Fury. You've got your fire form and your lightning form, etc. And they've got an associated weapon that's mapped to a different attack button. You can also use a similarly regressive upgrade system to strengthen the weapons themselves, just finding materials in the world, taking them to a blacksmith and getting those strengthened. But it feels so stripped down compared to the last game. And sure, maybe THQ Nordic doesn't have the resources of the old THQ proper, but that's no excuse to make a game that's so demonstrably, remarkably worse than Darksiders II. It looks ugly, it runs terribly, it stutters constantly. There are impromptu loading screens that pause the game for seconds at a time, and they're placed in really weird positions. And the less said about the boss fights, the better. Some of the most unimaginative, tired, brainless crap I've ever seen. If you're going to rip off Dark Souls so churlishly, the least you could do would be to have some large-scale boss fights. Big, storied, epic encounters. Not here. It's just more dodge, hack and slash crap. It's like fighting regular enemies most of the time, but a bit bigger. They're so utterly matter-of-fact and underwhelming in their presentation. I'm stunned. I'm stunned at how bad the bosses are. Every now and then, the game does approach moderate fun. The basic hack and slash combat is okay. Again, it's not a patch on the previous games, but it's serviceable. You know, you can time your button presses to do different moves, and the whip's fun. I really like whips as weapons in games. They don't often get a fair shake. You know, Dark Souls especially has crap whips more often than not. The enemy designs are quite nice, and Fury as a character is not especially deep, but she's enjoyable to see in action, and the relationships she has with the Watcher character that joins her, not voiced by Mark Hamill, it's a lady one this time. They've got this interesting little weird sub-dom relationship with the Watcher sort of adoring her and her mistreating her, and there's something a little bit, not sure if it's intentional or not, but there's something a little bit kinky with the way they have their dynamic. And, you know, enemies like this are fine. They're reasonably telegraphed in their attacks, and you can have a decent one-on-one fight with them. But then the game forgets itself again and just decides to surround you with lots of annoying little enemies. It's not that the game is super hard. It's not that difficult. It's just irritating. It's absolutely irritating to get assaulted by these enemies that are so quick and do very little to clearly tell you what they're going to do before they do it. And that's not tempered at all by a dodge roll that punishes you for almost anything except the perfect dodge. I think I forgot an item there in that clip. Anyway, it doesn't matter. There are lots of items, and you level up extraordinarily quickly, but it does very little to temper just how much of a pain in the ass this is to play half the time. My jaw drops every time I think about what a step back this is. This isn't a step back for the series. This is a full-bore leap back for the series. It's a total disappointment. And again, I say this as someone who adores the Dark Souls series, and I was looking forward to this one. This was a game I was looking forward to more than many other games this year. I was hoping against hope it would be great, because the first Darksiders and Darksiders II, I felt didn't get a good rap. They deserved a lot more success than they got. They did certainly okay to get some remasters and sequels, of course, but they didn't sell all that great. They may have been part of the series of many, many games that THQ released and overspent on that sort of hastened their demise, but with the art direction they had, and this is actually one of the best bosses in the game, the fight against Avarice here, and that's a wasted opportunity. Fury goes through the world trying to find the 7 deadly sins that are all personified as boss fights, and that is a great premise and really fits their whole, reinterpreting heaven and hell mythology. And this is a really well-designed boss visually, and it's got a bit more to it than just hacking and slashing, unlike several other of the bosses. But even then, it's stuff we've seen before. You fight the boss, hacky and slashy, then he jumps on those pillars that you see around and throws things at you, then jumps back down. It's so simple and done. So much of this game is done. We've seen it so many times, and better. We've seen it better elsewhere, which always gets me. If you're gonna copy things, if you're gonna be totally unoriginal, bold-faced unoriginal, then be good at it. That's what I praised the original Darksiders for. It was, yeah, we're being Zelda and we're not trying to hide it, but we're doing what we do very well. Yes, we have a portal gun in our game, but we're doing it very well. Oh, by the way, this isn't much of a spoiler, but if you don't want any spoilers at all, you can safely turn the video off right now. You've seen what I think of it. But very close to the beginning of the game, Fury's horse dies. Now, the horse was something of a moderate part of the first Darksiders, but a big part of Darksiders II because of the open spaces. But they kill the horse because there's no point having a horse, because even though there's a little bit of map interconnectivity, so much of it is corridors and just small-scale stuff that they knew full well having a horse was pointless. And that just speaks volumes about how shrunken this game is compared to everything else. In terms of map design, in terms of bosses, in terms of basic mechanics, in terms of combat, character progression, it's all reduced and it's crap. And I don't know, maybe she gets a horse far later into the game, but by that point I was done. I was done with this. I hated most of my time playing this. It's annoying, it gets under your skin, it's badly designed, it's utterly regressive, and it's shite. And it's heartbreaking for me to have to say that. Darksiders is my thing. I adore it, but this, I just wish it didn't exist. It's a stain on the series. One of the most backwards sequels I've ever seen. Darksiders 3 is a pale, tiny, twisted shadow of the series.